The halls of Riverside Heights High erupted in noise long before the first bell rang, the kind of restless chaos that came from too many secrets and too much teenage pride crammed into one building. Groups huddled by lockers, whispering about who cheated on whom, who got caught vaping, who got dumped in the parking lot. Girls filmed TikToks in the stairwell while boys yelled across the hallways, flexing egos bigger than their backpacks. Phones hovered like drones, always recording, always waiting for a new scandal. But beneath the glittering skylights and modern architecture, something ugly pulsed through the school. Comparison, cruelty, the quiet kind of violence that didn't leave bruises, but sunk deeper. A voice cut through the tension like a whisper over a storm. Some schools look beautiful on the outside, but inside, they can break you. A quick flash of Maya Brooks stumbling backward as a locker slammed beside her. Someone's hand shoved her sketchbook to the ground, pages scattering like fallen leaves. Her breathing hitched, but she didn't fight back. She never did. Another flash, Ethan Valerio's jaw tightening as he grabbed someone by the collar, slamming them against a wall so hard the posters rattled. His voice was low, dangerous. Then another flash, Maya clutching a graduation sketchbook against her chest, eyes glossy with heartbreak. And then everything snapped back to the beginning. It was the first Monday of spring semester, and Riverside Heights buzzed about a rumor that had spread like wildfire. A new transfer student. From California. Half Korean, half Latino. Supposedly cute enough to melt anybody with a pulse. By second period, the hallways were crowded with girls pretending not to wait for him. The doors opened, and Ethan Valerio stepped inside like he didn't notice the entire school staring at him. He wore a soft gray hoodie layered under a denim jacket, dark hair slightly tousled, and his backpack slung loosely over one shoulder. He had that effortless style, the kind people tried hard to fake. His face was calm, unreadable, almost cold, like he'd seen everything and nothing surprised him anymore. The moment he walked down the hallway, phones shot up instinctively. Who is that? He's gorgeous, what the heck? I heard he lived in San Diego. No, I heard LA. What's his name again? He looks like he won't talk to any of us. He didn't. He didn't smile. Didn't glance at the phones. Didn't even slow down. He just moved through the crowd with a quiet confidence that made him even more noticeable. Girls stared, boys whispered, teachers paused mid-step. His presence filled the hallway like someone had turned up the saturation on everything. But Ethan's eyes stayed forward, detached, like he didn't want to be there. He picked up his schedule from the office without a single unnecessary word, thanked the secretary with a soft nod, and headed toward his first class. By then, students had already created group chats with his name in it. People zoomed in on photos of him walking. And a few girls practically sprinted to the science building pretending they accidentally had the same class. Ethan didn't care. What caught his attention wasn't the whispers, or the stares, or the doors swinging open to see him. It was a girl sitting outside alone in the courtyard as he crossed through the glass hallway. Her curls framed her face like a halo of soft coils, and she sat with her knees pulled up slightly, sketchbook balanced against her thigh. Maya Brooks. Quiet, unnoticed by most people unless someone needed a target. She was drawing with total focus, pencil gliding across the paper with gentle precision. Alone but not lonely. Calm but not weak. She had a quiet dignity that didn't need an audience. Ethan slowed without realizing it. She didn't look up. She didn't gasp. Didn't blush. Didn't stare like everyone else. She didn't even know he existed, and that intrigued him more than he expected. He stepped into his English class, but something about the girl with the sketchbook lingered in his mind. The bell rang and students filed in. Girls positioned themselves so they might end up sitting near him. Guys gave him half nods, testing whether he'd be a threat or an ally. Ethan remained quiet, observing without revealing much. Throughout the morning, he moved through his classes like a shadow. People tried to talk to him, ask where he was from, comment on his looks. Ethan answered politely but briefly, giving nothing away. He wasn't rude, just selective with his energy. At lunch, the cafeteria buzzed even louder. People waited for him to walk in. They wanted to see who he'd sit with. Cameras discreetly followed him. Girls pretended not to stare. Some even shifted their seats so he might walk past them. He didn't. He walked straight past the cafe tables, to the courtyard. Maya was still there, finishing another sketch, headphones in, completely unaware of the social chaos around her. It was as if she lived in a different universe, quieter, softer, untouched by gossip or cliques. She brushed a curl behind her ear and smudged shading on the page, eyes narrowed in concentration. Ethan paused again, leaning slightly on the railing, trying to understand why this girl was so different. Maya finally sensed someone's presence and looked up. Her eyes widened just slightly, surprised, not impressed. For a second, they just looked at each other. His stare wasn't the arrogant kind popular guys used to intimidate or flirt with. It was observant, almost studying her with genuine curiosity. Maya felt her breath catch, not because he was the new pretty boy, but because there was something in his eyes that didn't match the rumors, something quiet, contemplative. Then she blinked and looked away, returning to her sketchbook like nothing happened. Ethan's lips twitched, not quite a smile, but something close. For the rest of the day, he couldn't forget her face. The way she didn't react to him like everyone else. The way she didn't stare or giggle or try to get his attention. It wasn't rejection, it was indifference, the pure kind that came from someone who truly didn't care about status. It bothered him more than he expected. The final bell rang. Students rushed out, cheering for freedom, planning hangs and rides and TikToks. Ethan walked toward the exit, hands in his pockets, trying to make sense of his odd fascination. As he stepped outside, the wind picked up, blowing a loose sheet of paper across the pavement. He instinctively reached down to catch it. It was a sketch. A beautifully detailed drawing of a boy sitting alone on a rooftop, knees pulled up, hood over his head, city lights blurred behind him. The loneliness in the drawing was almost tangible. Ethan swallowed. Because the boy, it looked like him. He turned around slowly. Maya stood a few steps away, eyes wide with horror, realizing exactly what he was holding. She reached out instinctively. Sorry, that fell out, can I? He handed it back gently. You drew this. Maya hesitated, cheeks warming, embarrassed. Yeah. But it wasn't supposed to. I wasn't trying to, it's just. He interrupted softly. It's good.
She froze, surprised.
It's really good, he repeated, eyes lingering on hers for a second too long. Then the school doors burst open with a wave of students, and the moment snapped. Maya tucked the sketch into her book quickly and walked away faster than she needed to. Ethan watched her go, hands still warm from touching her paper. He didn't know her name yet, but he already knew he wanted to. He walked home that day slower than usual, mind replaying their brief conversation. Not the exact words, those were simple. It was the energy, the tension, the faint spark of curiosity, and something else he wasn't ready to name. Inside his chest, something shifted. He didn't believe in fate, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he wasn't supposed to meet her. He was meant to. Hold on, before we continue, if this story is keeping you hooked, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, tap subscribe, and share it with someone who loves a good Afro-Korean twist. Your engagement helps the channel grow, and trust me, the best part of the story is still coming. The next day, Riverside Heights moved with the same frantic electricity as always, gossip spilling through corridors, the cliques reforming like magnets snapping into place, and phones already raised before the first warning bell. But Ethan walked through the building with one very specific face stuck in his mind. He'd seen hundreds of people stare at him since he transferred, yet hers was the only one that lingered. During second period, he scanned his schedule again, noticing he had an elective block coming up. He'd chosen art out of convenience, his previous school required it, and he figured it would be an easy class to ease into. He didn't expect anything more from it. But as he pushed open the studio door, the familiar smell of paint and pencil shavings washed over him, and something in his chest tightened. Maya was there. Her curls were tied loosely today, one strand falling over her cheek as she bent over a sketch. The room buzzed with chatter, yet she existed in her own pocket of silence, a calm center in a storm of teenage impulses. Her hand moved quickly, lines forming shapes with effortless grace. Ethan's steps slowed again. The art teacher, Ms. Langford, spotted him. "You're the transfer student, right? Ethan Valerio." He nodded.
Yeah.
"Welcome. Grab a seat. Anywhere you'd like." "Anywhere." His eyes drifted to the only empty chair near the window, right beside Maya. A few students watched as he crossed the room. Whispering already began. "He's sitting next to her? You think he knows her, or something?" She probably begged him. But they didn't know Maya. She would never. He pulled out the chair quietly. Maya didn't look up, didn't shift, didn't do anything except continue shading the page. Ethan sat, watching the pencil move. Her fingers had small smudges of graphite on them, and she seemed so lost in the drawing that the world could have been burning, and she'd still be in that sketch. After a moment, she glanced sideways. Their eyes met. She instantly tensed and closed her sketchbook a little too quickly. Ethan leaned slightly. "You don't have to hide it." She blinked. I mean, it looked good yesterday," he murmured. "The rooftop piece." Color rose in her cheeks again. "That was not supposed to be seen." "It was good," he repeated quietly, eyes steady. "Really good." She didn't know how to respond. She looked away, pretending to rearrange her pencils. Ms. Langford clapped loudly. "All right, class. Today we're working on emotional portrait sketches. Find anything, your face in a mirror, a picture on your phone, a friend, and capture an emotion. The point is honesty." Ethan watched Maya open her sketchbook to a fresh page. Her hand hovered over the blank paper. She was already thinking, building something in her mind. He glanced at her again. "Do you always draw people?" "Sometimes," she murmured. "But I draw feelings more." "Feelings?" "Yeah, like sadness, calmness, loneliness." She shrugged softly. "The things people don't say out loud." He let that sink in. When class was almost over, Ms. Langford walked past their table and paused behind Maya. "Oh, that's stunning," she breathed. "Such quiet emotion." "Is that?" Maya slammed the book shut again. Ethan's eyes widened. Because in that half-second glimpse, he'd seen the truth. It was him. A sketch of him sitting in the art studio, looking out the window, eyes distant, thoughtful, alone. Maya's voice was small. "I just draw what I notice." Ethan swallowed, heart thudding unexpectedly. "And what did you notice about me?" She froze. Before she could answer, the bell rang, scattering the moment like broken glass. Students rushed out, grabbing bags, knocking stools, leaving charcoal fingerprints everywhere. Maya stood quickly, almost too quickly, and zipped her bag without meeting his gaze. But Ethan wasn't letting the moment drift away. "Hey," he said softly. She hesitated. He nodded at her sketchbook. "Thank you." "For what?" "For seeing something no one else does." Her breath caught. She left the room without another word. That was how their quiet bond began. Over the next few days, Ethan found himself drifting toward Maya more than he planned. Not in dramatic ways. He wasn't the type for bold declarations or loud entrances. Instead, it was in the subtle choices. When she sat at a side table in art class, he sat beside her. When she lingered outside waiting for the next bell, he stood nearby. When her pencil snapped, he quietly slid his extra one toward her. They didn't talk much. They didn't need to. Maya didn't fill silence with nervous chatter, and Ethan didn't force conversations. Their exchanges were small, careful, but something unspoken grew between them, something that pulled him toward her without permission. One afternoon, as they both finished packing up, Ethan nudged her sketchbook gently. "You listen to music when you draw?"
Yeah.
"What kind?" She hesitated.
Indie.
"Soft stuff. Emotional." He smiled faintly. "That fits you." She raised an eyebrow. "Fits me how?" "You feel like someone who hears things deeply," he said. Maya blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity. "What about you?" she asked softly. "Old R&B. And movie scores." "That's surprising." "Why?" "You look like you listen to loud rap or something." He laughed softly. I like music that slows my thinking down. She nodded. Same. The next day, she found a folded note under her sketchbook. A song recommendation. She stared at it for a long time before slipping it into her pocket. Later that week, a drizzly afternoon painted the sky gray. Students rushed to buses and cars, umbrellas clashing, sneakers slapping through puddles. Maya lingered under the awning, waiting for her bus, hugging her sketchbook to her chest. The wind blew cold, and her curls whipped gently against her cheeks. She didn't expect Ethan to appear beside her, hands in pockets, hoodie pulled up slightly against the chill. "You waiting for someone?" he asked. "My bus," she said. "It's always late." He nodded. "I'll wait with you." She blinked. "Why?" "I just want to." She looked away to hide the small smile forming. They stood together quietly as rain tapped against the pavement. Across the parking lot, someone watched them. A girl named Lila. Phone lifted discreetly.
Click.
Record.
Zoom in.
Maya didn't notice. Ethan didn't either. They just stood in soft silence, sharing the shelter of the awning until the bus pulled up. "See you tomorrow?" Ethan asked. "Yeah," she whispered, stepping aboard. But by the next morning, Riverside Heights was on fire. Someone posted the video of them at the bus stop, edited with slow zooms and dramatic music like a cheap gossip reel. It hit the school Snapchat within minutes. Comments exploded. "Ethan? With her? Why is he talking to that girl? She's not even, like, cute? She sits alone for a reason. She must have begged him. Deadass, he could do so much better." By first period, Maya felt the shift in the air. People stared longer. Not out of curiosity, out of judgment. Girls whispered behind hands. Boys snickered when she walked past. Someone bumped her shoulder intentionally in the hallway. Her phone buzzed. "Unknown. Stop embarrassing yourself. Unknown. You're not in his league. Unknown. Stay away from him." Her throat tightened. She locked the phone and shoved it into her backpack. By lunchtime, the cafeteria felt like a battlefield. Laughter echoed too loudly. Groups turned to look at her whenever she entered their line of sight. She pretended not to notice, but her chest felt hollow. She slipped out the back exit, heading behind the auditorium, the one place no one ever went. Her breath shook as she leaned against the wall, tears she tried to swallow finally spilling. She hated crying, hated the feeling of being watched, even when alone. "Maya?" She froze. Ethan stepped around the corner, holding a small folded paper in his hand. When he saw her tears, something in his face changed, gentle concern sharpening into something protective. "Who did something to you?" he asked quietly. She wiped her cheeks quickly. "It's nothing. Just people. People who need to mind their business," he muttered, voice low. "You don't have to." He stepped closer. "I want to." He gently held out the folded piece of paper. She hesitated, then opened it. A hand-drawn note. Not words, an illustration. A girl sitting in the rain, hunched over, looking small, but beside her, a boy holding an umbrella over both of them, shielding her. Underneath, in Ethan's neat handwriting, "You're not alone. Not anymore." Her breath trembled. Before she could speak, loud voices echoed from around the corner. A group of boys, the same ones who'd been spreading most of the rumors, rounded the edge of the building. "Oh look," one snorted. "The charity case and the California prince." Ethan turned slowly. Something cold moved through him, calm, controlled, but dangerous. He walked forward until he stood inches from the ringleader, his voice dropping to a deadly quiet. "Say one more thing about her," he murmured, "and you'll regret ever opening your mouth." The boy snorted. "Relax. It's not that serious." Ethan grabbed him by the collar and slammed him back against the wall so fast the others didn't even react. The cafeteria windows nearby shook from the impact. The boy's bravado shattered instantly. What the hell?" Ethan's voice remained soft, but sharper than a blade. "Leave her alone. All of you. I won't warn you again." The group stumbled back, murmuring curses, but not daring to get closer. They walked away fast, looking over their shoulders as if Ethan might appear behind them. When he turned back to Maya, his expression softened again. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly, clutching the drawing like a lifeline. He reached a hand toward her cheek, but hesitated, stopping halfway. "You don't deserve any of this." Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "Why do you care?" He looked at her for a long, steady moment. "Because I see you." Her heartbeat stumbled. No one had ever said that to her, not with that kind of sincerity, not like it meant something. Ethan stepped back only when he heard the distant bell ring, signaling lunch was almost over. He gave her one last look, soft but sure, before walking away with quiet intensity. Maya watched him go, still shaking slightly, but for the first time that day, not from fear. Something inside her felt different, warmer, stronger. Because maybe she wasn't alone anymore. The next few days at Riverside Heights felt different, quietly, subtly different. People still whispered when Maya walked past, but the tone had changed. Rumors hadn't died, but the sting wasn't as sharp, not when Ethan walked beside her between classes without hesitation. He didn't make grand gestures or loud declarations. Instead, he treated her like someone who mattered, in ways no one else had ever bothered to. He saved her a seat in art class without speaking a word about it. He nudged her hand lightly when she looked too lost in thought. He waited after fifth period just to walk her halfway to her bus. Maya found herself smiling more, small, careful smiles, the kind she wasn't used to showing. For the first time since she transferred, her steps felt a little lighter. Still, not everyone appreciated the shift. Especially not Lila Ramirez.
Pretty.
Influential. Glittering voice and darker motives. She had been obsessed with Ethan since his first day, and she couldn't stand how he kept gravitating toward the quiet girl who barely spoke. Lila wasn't used to losing attention, especially not to someone invisible. One afternoon, while Maya was grabbing her sketchbook from her locker, Lila and her two friends cornered her. No teachers. No cameras. Just polished nails, expensive perfume, and sharp smiles. "So," Lila began, her tone dripping sweetness that barely hid the venom underneath, "I heard Ethan's been spending time with you." Maya's fingers tightened around her books. "I don't know what you're talking about." Lila smirked. "Oh, come on.
Don't play shy.
Everyone's seen it." Her friends giggled like it was a rehearsed cue. Lila stepped closer, too close. "Listen, Maya. Guys like him don't end up with girls like you. It's cute that you're dreaming, but he's just being polite." Maya's heartbeat thudded painfully. I'm not. But you want him to like you, right?" Lila tilted her head mockingly. "It's written all over your face." Maya swallowed hard, humiliation burning her chest. "So here's a tip," Lila continued, "before you embarrass yourself even more. Keep your distance. He's mine." With that final stab, she sauntered off, her friends laughing behind her. Maya stood frozen, breath trembling, vision blurring. She knew she shouldn't let the words get to her. She knew she shouldn't listen. But the insecurities that lived under her ribs had teeth, and Lila's voice fed them sharp new ones. That evening, she barely touched her dinner. She didn't even pick up her pencil. She just sat on her bed staring at the blank wall, her chest heavy with doubt. Did she imagine everything? Was Ethan just being kind? Was she foolish to think she meant something? Her phone buzzed. "Ethan, you okay? You disappeared after art." "Ethan, wanna talk?" She stared at the messages for a long moment before responding. "Maya, just tired." "Ethan, you sure?" "Maya, yeah." He didn't push further, but she felt the weight of the silence that followed. The next day, Maya avoided him. Not dramatically, just tiny choices that kept distance between them. She left class early, sat farther in art, pretended not to see him in the hallway. She didn't know if she was protecting her heart or making the biggest mistake of her life. Ethan felt it instantly. He watched her retreat into herself, watched her hide behind sketchbooks, watched her smile disappear like it had never existed. And it bothered him more than he expected. During art class, he leaned over slightly. "You're quiet today." She nodded without looking up. "Just focusing." He studied her. "Did something happen?" "No," she said too quickly. He paused, jaw tightening. She was shutting him out again, and it made something uneasy coil in his chest. But before he could press further, Ms. Langford interrupted with a project announcement, and the moment slipped between them like smoke. After school, Ethan walked outside and spotted Maya waiting alone by the bus stop, head lowered, shoulders small. He took a breath, ready to approach her, when movement caught his eye. Lila, wearing a perfect outfit, perfect hair, perfect fake smile. She strutted toward him like a scene she'd blocked out in her head. "Ethan," she squealed. "I'm so glad I caught you." He didn't respond. "I'm hosting a party tonight." She held up an invitation. "You should come. It'll be fun." "Not interested." Lila laughed, as if he were joking. "Come on. Everyone wants you there." "I'm not everyone." Her smile faltered. Lila flicked her eyes toward Maya, then back at him. "Seriously, Ethan, a party will help you relax. You look stressed." He didn't glance her way again. "I said no." She blinked, stunned. "Is it because of her?" He stiffened. "Don't talk about her." "Oh my God," she breathed. "You're actually into." "That's enough." Her mouth snapped shut. For the first time in her life, someone had told her no, and meant it. Ethan walked away, leaving her standing in disbelief. But later that night, something unexpected happened. Maya received a text from a number she didn't recognize. Unknown. "Are you coming to the party at Lila's tonight?" Ethan said he'd be there.
He told people he wants to talk to you.
Unknown. You should go. He's waiting. Her heart stuttered. She knew better. But the thought of Ethan wanting her, choosing her, outweighed the red flags. So she got dressed. A simple top.
Jeans.
Light makeup. She didn't want to overdo it. She just wanted to appear presentable. She arrived at Lila's house around 8:30 p.m. Loud music thumped through the walls. Students spilled across the lawn, red cups in hand, laughter filling the night. Maya hesitated on the doorstep. She didn't belong here. But the message. She stepped inside. The house was packed, shoulder-to-shoulder bodies, flashing lights, spilled drinks. She kept her head down and searched for Ethan, weaving through the chaos, heart pounding. She couldn't find him. Then, from the top of the stairs, someone called out loudly. "Oh my God, look who showed up. Lila." Everyone turned. Maya froze in the middle of the room. Lila smirked like a cat who had finally cornered its prey. "Didn't expect you to come. This isn't exactly your scene." Whispers rippled through the crowd. "Why is she here? She looks lost. Who invited her?" Maya's stomach dropped. "I got a text," she said quietly. "Someone said Ethan wanted to talk to me." Lila burst into laughter. "Oh, sweetie, that was a joke." The room erupted. Maya's breath vanished. Humiliation wrapped around her throat like a fist. She blinked rapidly, trying to hold in tears, but they blurred her vision anyway. "You really thought he'd ask for you?" Lila laughed. "That's adorable." Maya stumbled back, bumping into someone. People snickered. Someone whispered, "Pathetic." She turned and ran, pushing through bodies and bursting out the front door into the cold night. She stumbled down the driveway, choking on sobs she couldn't stop. She hated herself for coming, hated herself for believing, hated that one message had undone everything. She didn't hear the car until headlights flashed over her. "Maya?" Her breath hitched. "Ethan." He jumped out of the driver's seat and rushed toward her. "What happened? What are you doing here?" She wiped her face frantically. "Nothing. I made a mistake." He gently caught her arm. "Talk to me." She pulled back. "Why are you even here?" "To pick up my cousin," he said. "I wasn't planning to go inside." She froze. She'd been tricked. Completely. Ethan studied her tear-stained face, realization dawning. "Someone did something to you." "Please," she whispered, voice breaking. "Just let me go home."
He shook his head softly.
"Not like this." She shook harder. "Ethan." Then something in her chest crumbled, and the truth burst out in a broken whisper. "I shouldn't have come. I shouldn't have believed anyone. I shouldn't have." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Maya, look at me." She lifted her trembling gaze. His expression was full of concern, warm, fierce, unwavering. "You didn't do anything wrong," he said gently, "and you have nothing to be ashamed of." She shook her head, tears cascading. "They made fun of me. All of them. They." He didn't let her finish. He pulled her into his chest, arms wrapping around her with quiet certainty. She froze, then collapsed into the embrace, gripping the fabric of his hoodie as if she might fall apart without holding onto something. His heartbeat thudded steadily against her ear. "You're okay," he whispered. "I've got you." Her sobs broke fully then, raw, painful, releasing every bit of humiliation, doubt, and fear she'd buried. He held her tighter. People streamed out of the party behind them, but Ethan didn't care about the eyes. He didn't care about the whispers. He cared only about the girl trembling in his arms, the girl who'd been hurt because she trusted something she shouldn't have. When her breathing finally slowed, he stepped back, cupping her face gently, thumbs wiping her tears. "Maya," he murmured, "I would never ask you to come here. And I would never let anyone treat you like that." Her voice cracked. "Why do you care so much?" He hesitated. Then he answered in the softest, most honest voice she'd ever heard. "Because you matter to me." The words hit her like a warm wave, shocking, impossible, undeniable. She stared at him, breath uneven, heart racing so fast she felt dizzy. Before she could speak, someone shouted from the porch. "Seriously? He's with her?" Ethan's jaw flexed. He ignored them entirely. "Come on," he said softly, guiding her toward his car. "I'm taking you home." She nodded. For the first time that night, she felt safe. The ride home was quiet at first, soft music humming from the speakers, streetlights streaking across the windshield, Maya sitting curled in the passenger seat with her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Ethan didn't push her to talk. He just drove slowly through the dim neighborhoods, glancing over occasionally to make sure she was okay. Halfway through the drive, she finally spoke in a small, tired voice. "I shouldn't have come. I should have known it was a setup." He shifted slightly toward her. "People like Lila, they thrive on seeing others hurt. They go after anyone they think they can break." She stared out the window. "She's right about one thing, though. Which is, I don't fit in here. Not with people like her. Not with someone like you." Ethan exhaled sharply. "Don't ever say that again." She hesitated. "You think I'm stupid enough to care what Lila or her friends say?" he continued. "You think I'd walk away from you because some girl with a ring light and a superiority complex tells me to?" Despite her ache, a small, shaky laugh escaped her. Ethan smiled faintly. "You belong wherever you choose to stand," he said quietly. "With or without me." Her chest tightened at the softness in his tone. When he pulled up to her driveway, he put the car in park but didn't turn off the engine. "Are you going to be okay?" She nodded slowly. "Thank you for everything." He looked as if he wanted to say more, like words were caught behind his teeth, but he simply nodded. "Good night, Maya." She stepped out, but before closing the door, she said softly, "Good night, Ethan." He watched until she disappeared inside before driving away, jaw tense, hands tight on the steering wheel. He hated that someone had hurt her, hated that she doubted her worth, hated that he couldn't protect her from everything. But he also felt something else, something deeper, something sharper. He wasn't letting her slip away again.
Not now.
Not ever. The following week moved in slow waves, sometimes calm, sometimes tense, but always tinged with something unspoken between them. Maya was quieter than before, but not in the same way. It wasn't the old fear-based silence. It was a careful kind of distance, like she was reevaluating everything, herself, him, their connection. Ethan didn't push her. He stayed near, steady, gentle. He sat beside her in art class. He walked her to the bus when she didn't run away. He asked how she was in subtle ways, soft looks, small gestures, silence that felt safe. But the school wasn't done with them. Not even close. One morning, as Maya walked into the hall, she froze. A photo of her and Ethan from the night of the party, her face still tear-streaked, his hands cupping her cheeks, was plastered all over the school's anonymous Snapchat story. Caption: Crybaby seduces Ethan Valerio? Dozens of students stared at her as she passed. Is she crying again? Why is he always with her? What does he even see in her? Maya's throat burned. Before she could escape, Ethan appeared, pushing his way through the crowd. He took one look at the screen of someone's phone, and his entire posture changed. His eyes went cold. His jaw turned razor-sharp. His voice dropped to a dangerous calm. Who posted it? Silence. Ethan moved closer to the crowd. I'm asking one more time. Who posted it? No one answered, but people backed away. Maya grabbed his arm gently. Ethan, please. Let it go. He turned to her, eyes still burning.
No.
They have no right to do this. She shook her head. I don't want more drama. He swallowed hard and exhaled slowly, calming himself.
Okay.
Then we'll handle it your way. Hold on, before we continue, if this story is keeping you hooked, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button, tap subscribe, and share it with someone who loves a good Afro-Korean twist. Your engagement helps the channel grow, and trust me, the best part of the story is still coming. But at lunch, everything exploded anyway. That was when Lila stood on top of one of the cafeteria tables, dramatic, loud, attention-hungry, and said in a sing-song voice, Ethan, honey, come get your girl before she cries again. The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Maya froze mid-step. Ethan stood up so fast his chair screeched across the floor. He walked straight to the center of the room, voice steady and firm. Stop talking about her. Lila raised a brow.
Why?
Am I lying? Yes, Ethan said simply. You are. The cafeteria stilled. Students leaned forward. Lila's smirk flickered. So what? You're defending her because she's what? Fun to pity. Ethan exhaled sharply through his nose, barely containing his anger. I'm defending her because she matters to me, because she deserves respect. Something you don't seem to understand. Gasps broke across the room. Lila's cheeks burned. You're humiliating yourself for her? He stepped closer, voice dropping.
No.
I'm humiliating you because you earned it. Someone whispered. Damn. Maya's heart pounded hard enough to hurt. She tried to step forward, to stop him, to save him from himself. But he continued. You want the truth? He said loudly, letting his voice carry. I like her. Silence.
Pure, shocking silence.
I like the way she sees the world. I like the way she draws when she thinks no one is watching. I like that she's real when everyone else here is fake. Maya stopped breathing. Lila stared, speechless. Ethan took a breath, steady and firm. So, if you have something to say about her, you say it to me. Nobody said anything. Nobody dared to. Maya felt her eyes burn, not from humiliation, but from something warmer, something she hadn't felt in years. She left the cafeteria before he could see the tears fall. But this time, they weren't tears of pain. The next week changed everything. People didn't stop staring, but the tone shifted. Some students avoided messing with Maya simply because they were scared of Ethan. Others seemed confused that he'd chosen her at all. Some left her alone entirely. But it didn't last, because her parents had been hiding something. One evening, she walked into the living room and saw suitcases lined up by the couch. Her stomach dropped. What is that? Her mother looked up, worried. Maya, sweetheart, sit down. Her father rubbed the back of his head. We got notice from the company today. My transfer request finally went through. She blinked slowly. Transfer? To where? Her mother took her hand gently. Atlanta. Maya's breath vanished. When? She whispered. In a month, her father said. We're moving in a month. Her world tilted. Her vision blurred. Her heart cracked open. Atlanta. 4 states away. 4 states from Ethan. 4 states from everything she'd just started to trust. 4 states from the first place she'd finally felt seen. Her mother squeezed her hand. I know this is hard, but it's a good opportunity. We'll have more stability, better pay, a safer neighborhood. Her father nodded. It'll be good for your future. But all Maya heard was, you're leaving. You're leaving him. You're leaving everything. When she finally made it to her room, she closed the door and sank to the floor. Was life really going to take this from her too? Was she foolish to think things could go well for once? Could she tell Ethan? Should she? Her chest tightened painfully. She didn't know how to face him. She didn't know how to say goodbye. But the news spread anyway. Nothing in Riverside Heights stayed secret for long. The following day after school, Ethan found Maya sitting behind the auditorium, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the concrete like it held all the answers she didn't. Maya, he said softly. She didn't look up. He sat beside her silently. Finally, she whispered, I didn't want you to find out like this. His voice was tight. But it's true. She nodded. When, he asked. In a month. A long, painful silence settled between them. Ethan's voice cracked slightly. So that's it? You're just going? It's not my choice, she said quietly. My dad's job. He shook his head, looking away, jaw clenching. I just found you. Her chest squeezed. I know. You expect me to just watch you leave? Tears stung her eyes. I don't expect anything. I don't want this either. He leaned forward, burying his face in his hands. This feels so unfair. She closed her eyes. It is. He hesitated, then asked in a small, vulnerable voice she'd never heard from him. Can I be selfish for 1 second? She nodded, breath trembling. He reached for her hand, slowly, carefully, and intertwined his fingers with hers. I don't want to lose you, he whispered. The confession shattered her. She squeezed his hand back, tears slipping down her cheeks. You won't. But they both knew distance was cruel. They both knew long goodbyes could kill even the strongest feelings. He leaned forward slightly, forehead resting against hers, breath mixing with hers in the soft, fragile space between them. Let me spend whatever time we have left with you, he whispered. Her voice shook. Okay. And they did. For the next several weeks, they created memories like they were racing time itself. Late-night walks, bus rides where they forgot the world, art class moments where they sketched each other quietly. Then graduation arrived. Bittersweet, heavy, unforgettable. After the ceremony, Ethan pulled her aside behind the bleachers, heart pounding hard. He handed her a wrapped package. She opened it, slowly, carefully, and her fingers stopped. A sketchbook. Not just any sketchbook. Their sketchbook. Filled with drawings of every moment they had shared. Her hands trembled. When you look at it, Ethan said softly, I want you to remember you were never invisible. Not to me. Tears spilled freely down her cheeks. She hugged the sketchbook to her chest, then threw her arms around him, crying silently into his shoulder. He held her tight, burying his face in her hair, clinging to the moment like it was the last breath before drowning. It was a goodbye, without saying the word. And then she left. 5 years later. Chicago was colder than she remembered. But Maya, now 21, confident, with braids that brushed her shoulders and eyes that carried stories, walked through the city like she belonged to every block. She was finishing her 3rd year in art school. She had an internship. She rented a tiny studio apartment filled with canvases and music. She still had the sketchbook. She never opened it when she felt lonely, only when she wanted to remember where she started. Tonight was special. Her artwork was being displayed at a small gallery. Not a huge event, not a big crowd, but big enough for her. She stood near her piece, a painting of a lonely boy on a rooftop under the Chicago skyline, when she heard slow footsteps behind her. Something in the air shifted. She turned around, and her heart stopped. Ethan Valerio stood there. Older, taller, slightly broader shoulders, softer eyes, jaw still sharp, hair a little longer, and undeniably still Ethan. Her breath shuddered. He swallowed hard, staring at her like he wasn't sure she was real. Maya, he said quietly. Her eyes filled instantly. Ethan? He stepped closer, voice breaking. I've been looking for you. She laughed through the tears. You found me. He hesitated, then held up something that made her heart collapse completely. The sketchbook. The same one he'd given her. Worn edges. Folded pages.
Loved. Kept. Carried.
I kept it with me, he said softly. Everywhere I went. Her chest ached with something warm and overwhelming. She whispered, I never forgot you. He moved closer until they were inches apart. Tell me we didn't lose each other. She looked up at him, at the boy who had become a man, at the first person who ever truly saw her. You didn't lose me, she whispered. You just had to wait for me to come back. His eyes softened. He reached out, slowly, cautiously, and brushed his fingers against hers. This time, she didn't pull away. This time, she held on. They walked out of the gallery together, side by step, no rush, no fear, no doubt. Outside, the wind was cold, but his hand was warm. As they disappeared down the quiet Chicago street, Maya thought, some loves aren't lost. Some loves don't fade. Some loves wait just long enough for you to find your way home.